Thursday night football is here, baby. Let's go. We've got a great matchup between the Eagles and the Vikings tonight. And I've got three best bets for you in tonight's matchup. So you make sure you tune in through the whole video where you're going to get one player prop, you're going to get one teaser, and one plus money parlay. That's going to make you money to end this day. Let's go. What's up, guys? It's your boy Noble Living back with another DYF Bets video where I'm breaking down my favorite picks and plays of the day as we just try to get to the bag and make some money. I do gotta apologize again. That's twice in 1 week I have to apologize for not being able to drop a video. My travel schedule's been absolutely crazy, so I do apologize about that. Wasn't able to get out a video in time yesterday. We did have an amazing day on Tuesday in the channel. We went 2-1 on the day, and then we did go 4-1 yesterday in the Telegram group as well. So that's why you gotta make sure you're tapping in on all the different platforms, so this way you can get access to all the different plays. On Tuesday, we cashed on the Angels Mariners over 7.5 runs. We cashed on the Dodgers and Padres over 9.5 runs. And then we did lose on the Mookie Betts and Julio Rodriguez hitter parlay, as Mookie didn't get us a hit. All the sports books are boosting it, and once I saw that later on in the day, I put my head down, shook it, because I knew it was over. Once those sports books start boosting those props, it's literally over with. But it's okay. 2-1 on the day. You can see our year-to-date record right here, over 500 in September. We're going to keep that momentum going right now in the NFL today. So if you can, drop a big like on this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. And let's dive into these NFL plays for today. For my first best bet of the day, I'm going with a teaser, and I'm taking the Vikings plus 12.5, and I'm also taking the over 43.5. So that's about a 6-point teaser, depending on where you get the numbers at your books. But Vikings plus the money in the over there, minus 120 odds. And listen, I'm one of the biggest Eagle fans out there. I know I don't have any of my gear on. That tells you how long I've been traveling. I didn't bring any of my Eagle gears with me. But I have to admit, this is one of the times where I can't be biased, right? This is a game where I would love more than anything just to take the Eagles on the spread, right? But I just can't do it. And as a result, I'm just going to tease this one down a little bit, and I'm going to tease it in the sides of the line movement, and that's just betting for you. Even though I'm a fan, even though I'm going to be rooting for the Eagles passionately, and even if I lose this bet, I'm going to be okay with it if we cover, but I really think this is a game that's going to be a lot closer than we expect. The game opened up at Eagles -7, and now we're seeing Eagles -6 on certain books, so now we're seeing a lot of money coming on the Vikings, and rightfully so. When these teams played last year, it was also in week 2, the game was also in Philadelphia. The line for that game was -2.5 in favor of the Eagles. But now this year, the line is -7.5 to start, now down to -6, and the Eagles end up winning that game last year 24-7. What's the difference between that Eagles and Vikings game and Eagles and Vikings teams last year and the teams this year? Well, not much from a personnel standpoint, even though the Vikings did lose Dalvin Cook to the Jets, but the biggest thing that I'm looking at in this game is the situation. Last year, the Vikings were coming off a week 1 thrashing of the Packers where they beat them 23-7, and that offense looked virtually unstoppable. I mean, Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins were like in sync. They went to Lambeau Field, completely shocked the Packers by smacking them there, and Aaron Rodgers in that roster. So because of that, there was a lot of hype around that Vikings team, hence why they come into Philadelphia at 2.5-point favorites. This year, they come off an upset where they lost to this Tampa Bay team. Not only were they 4-point favorites in that game, but there were just a lot of questions surrounding that Tampa Bay team, and nobody was really expecting them to win, especially with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. Like, nobody was expecting that Tampa Bay team to win outright, let alone cover. So because of that, it's a completely different scenario, and now we see the books adjust because of that. If the Vikings win last week, I think that this game spread is like 2.5, 3.5, not 6 or 7. So because of that, we got to take advantage of that. Furthermore, we are only in week 2, so we're not in like must-win territory just yet, but this is a very important game for the Vikings and truthfully for their overall season. Why is that? Because right now, right, the Packers, they won last week. The Lions won last week. So 2 divisional opponents started off the year 1-0, right? Now the Packers next week play the Falcons, another winnable game. The Lions play Seattle, another winnable game. So now the Vikings are looking at a situation where they can start off the season 0-2, and their divisional opponents are starting off the season 2-0, right? Because they're both favorites in that matchup. The Lions and the Packers are favorites in those matchups. So that's not how you want to get the season started. And if you look ahead to next week, the Vikings have to play the Chargers, another Super Bowl contender. So now you're talking about there's a chance that they can start off this season 0-3. The situation is screaming that the Vikings are going to have to come out in this game. They're going to have to play hard. They're going to have to show up. They're going to have to battle if they really expect to fight for a playoff spot this year. And this season can literally get blown in the first 2-3 weeks, depending on how they come out today, depending on how they play. So because of that, I really think this is a game where the Vikings are putting a lot of extra pressure on themselves because of that situation, because of the scenario. And on the other other side of the ball, the Eagles, truthfully, they didn't look that good last week. I'm a big Eagles fan. I told you I'm biased, right? We jumped off to a quick 16-0 start, rightfully so. I mean, we jumped on them. We were the highest first half scoring team in the league last year. But when you look at it, we really were gifted a lot of those points, right? Shout out to our defense. Shout out to Big Play Slay getting that pick six. And then Zeke is going to be Zeke putting the ball on the ground and turning it over per usual, right? We got off to a 16-0 start there in that matchup because of the fact that our defense was causing turnovers and really scoring some points, giving us really good field position. But now when you look at it even further, 9 points we scored throughout the rest of the 3 quarters in that game. All field goals, no touchdowns. So that's a point of concern for me as the Patriots were coming back. Yeah, we did win. Yeah, we did cover. But that offense did not look like the Eagles offense that we were used to seeing last year. We have to figure out some questions. We have to answer some questions over there. We have to figure some things out. And I think this is going to be a good game for us to do it. But because of that, I just don't know if our offense is all the way back just yet. And yeah, I think those offense numbers are going to do a little bit better today because we're going to be playing at home. We're going to have the Link crowd behind us, which is why I'm leading towards the over here. But this is also a team that's fighting injuries on both sides of the ball. The Eagles are going to be without their starting running back, Kenneth Gainwell, today. And then they're also going to be without their starting defensive backs, Reed Blankman-Shift, our starting safety, and then James Bradbury, our second best corner right there across the field from Darius Slay. So because of that, I think that's just going to keep the field wide open for Kirk Cousins to be able to make a lot of plays. He's going to be able to pass the ball maybe at will or how he wants to. And then Jalen Hurts is going to be dependent more on the passing game today because there are going to be some questions with the running back. I think DeAndre Swift and Penny, this is a good game for them to kind of get acclimated to the Eagles offense. There's just a lot of things up in the air when it comes down to this offense and how with the injuries and what's going on in this matchup. So despite how great this Eagles team was last season, there's still going to be some questions that need to be answered today, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And because of that, I think that there are going to be opportunities for the Vikings to keep this game close, but also because of injuries, there are going to be a lot of points that are going to be scored. And then also keep in mind that the Eagles, even though they had a great season last year, they were only 10-10 against the spread last year. So they weren't like a huge money-making team when it really comes down to it. And when you also look at the matchup that these two teams played last year, even though the Eagles did thrash the Vikings 24-7, the main reason was because Minnesota had 4 second-half drives where they got inside the Eagles' 27-yard line. 3 of those drives were actually in the red zone, and 2 of those drives actually made it inside the 10-yard line. And guess what? They scored 0 points on any of those drives. 0 points. The Vikings convert at just 50% of those today into points or into a touchdown or 2. Number 1, that game's a lot closer. But 2, this is a lot closer of the game. So I expect the Vikings to convert those chances today. And this is one that should be closer than we think. So because of that, let's just take the teaser. The Vikings plus 12.5 points. They shouldn't lose by more than 2 touchdowns. And then also take the over 43.5 points, as I think this is going to be a high scoring one. For my second best bet of the day, I bet you can guess where I'm going. I just mentioned all the injuries that the Eagles have to their secondary, which plays right into the hand of this bet. And then you know what that means. We're taking Kirk Cousins over 37.5 passing attempts, minus 125 on DraftKings. Now, Kirk Cousins is one of the more pass-happy QBs in the league. He has the keys to this offense. They got a lot of faith in him to run that offense. He was 4th in the league last year in pass attempts per game. And then also, when you also look what he did last year against the Eagles, he threw it 44 times when he faced them. So this is a guy who's used to facing the Eagles. He faced them 10 times throughout his career, dating back to his time in Washington. He went over this total 6 times in his career against the Eagles, hooking 1 time. So that's pretty good numbers right there, and I like to see that trend. And then Minnesota also threw the ball on 73% of the possessions last week, which was good for 44 attempts. So he threw it 44 times last year against the Eagles, top 5 in passing attempts last year in the entire league, and then also 44 attempts last week. That means a lot of passes should be thrown a day. Again, also with those injuries in the secondary, should open up things for that Vikings receiving core. Last year, the Vikings threw the ball 64% of the time, which was good for 3rd in the league in terms of the most pass to run ratio. And then Vikings also will be without their starting center, Garrett Bradbury, today, which will make it hard for this team to really run the ball. Yeah, Fletcher Cox is a little bit questionable for the Eagles, but we still got Jalen Carter. We still got Jordan Davis who can lock it down. So because of that, I think the Eagles' defensive line, how stellar they are going to be able not only to get pressure on Cousins, but also stifle that run game, which is also going to open up the field a lot more for the pass game to be wide open. And then also that 6.5 spread, if you do think the Eagles are going to cover, or if you think it's going to be a game where they're going to be close to covering, that means that more than likely the Vikings are going to be down either the majority of the game, or they're going to be a closer game, but there's going to be a lot of passes that's happening. So if you think Eagles are going to cover, then that means that it's going to play right into the hand of the passing game, because if you're losing passing, that means you're going to have to move the ball quickly, which equals more passing attempts, which equals more offense. So because of that, give me Kirk Cousins over 37.5 pass attempts as my second best bet of the day. Now for my third and final best bet, I'm going with a two-leg player prop here. You guys know these parlays have been cash money for us in baseball season. The two-team steamers have been absolutely amazing. And now I'm bringing it over to the college football and NFL side of things because I want to see if we can keep this thing going. I'm going to take Devontae Smith and TJ Hockenson, two receivers, two guys on opposite teams, both to get 5 receptions. You parlay those guys together, you get to about plus 105 odds. You can't beat that for us to double our money. Now, I gave you guys the exact play script over the last 2 picks, right? A lot of passing, a lot of offense, a lot of questions, but I think it's going to be a closer game than we expect, right? But because of that, who's going to catch all these passes that are going to be happening, right? The Eagles have some injuries in the secondary. The Eagles don't have their running back. Jalen Hurts should be passing the ball more. Cousins should be passing the ball more. Who should be catching these passes? Well, let's go with 2 guys who had really strong week ones, and we just want to build on that. Devontae Smith for the Eagles last week had 7 catches for 47 yards on 10 targets. You'll love to see that, right? You guys know he's one of the go-to primary targets for Jalen Hurts, right there next to A.J. Brown. They both led the team last week in attempts and catches. They both tied for 10 targets and also for 7 catches, so you love to see that. The ball is being evenly distributed. I know Dallas Goedert didn't really get in the action, but I think he should get a little bit more touches today. When you really look at it, Devontae Smith is such a go-to safety valve for Jalen Hurts. He racked up 7 receptions in their matchup last year against the Vikings, and then he also went over this total of 5 receptions in 14 of 17 games. Pretty consistent. I love to see that. Last week when the Vikings took on Tampa Bay, Mike Evans had 6 receptions, Godwin had 5 receptions, so they gave some catches there, and this is just an Eagles wide receiving core that really has a lot of chemistry. They have a lot of wrinkles in the offense, screen passes, go routes, hitches, corners, comebacks, all these different things that they put into their offense, which makes it easier for players like Devontae Smith to get open. So I believe that he should be able to get several receptions today. 5 receptions is all we need. That's pretty on pace and average for what he does career-wise. So no reason why you shouldn't get that and cash that for the first leg of the parlay. Now for the second leg of the parlay, TJ Hockenson, last week he had 8 receptions and 9 targets for the Vikings. And he's quickly becoming one of Cousins' most trusted and go-to receiving options. Yeah, we know we have Justin Jefferson there, who's always going to get the majority of the volume and the attention, and rightfully so. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league, if not the best wide receiver. So now who really becomes the number 2 guy for Kirk Cousins now that Adam Thielen's gone out of Minnesota? I think that's TJ Hockenson, right? We saw him get 8 receptions last week, like I said. And over his career, he's averaged 8.8 targets per contest. So that means Cousins is looking his way, which we love to see. He's going to feed him the ball, even force feed him sometimes, which you love to see. You might want to sprinkle some on this anytime touchdown, as he's a big red zone threat and target for Kirk Cousins as well. Last week, the Eagles gave 5 receptions to New England's tight end Hunter Henry, who had 5 receptions for 50 plus yards in last week's matchup. So because of that, I think that's going to play right back into the hands of what I mentioned earlier. All the eyes and attention is going to be on Justin Jefferson. We've got injuries in the secondary, so we're going to have guys who are going to need to step up. So who's going to step up? That means everybody's going to be like, hey, Justin Jefferson, you're not going to beat us. So we're going to let KJ Osborne beat us. We're going to let TJ Hockenson beat us. We're going to let some of these other receivers beat us. So I think Cousins is going to be able to throw the ball around because of the pass attempts, and I believe several of those passes are going to go right there to TJ Hockenson. So give me TJ Hockenson to get 5 receptions, Devontae Smith to get 5 receptions, plus 105 odds. Can't beat that as our third and final best bet of the day, and our final bet to double our money to end the night. Well, that's it for me today, my friends. 3 bets, 3 winners coming your way. I do apologize for missing a few days this week with the videos because we have been absolutely on fire. Yesterday's slate would have swept as well, but it's okay. It happens. Listen, you don't have to bet every single day. You don't have to force things every single day. If it just doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out. That happens sometimes. But what you can do is continue to do your research, continue to track plays, and practicing bankroll management, because that's going to be the thing that's going to carry you over in the long run as we bet through this entire season, which is weeks and weeks long. No need to chase. Just come back the next day prepared, ready to get to that bag. I hope you guys are ready to make some money today. If you are, drop a comment below with your favorite picks, and I can't wait to see you inside the Telegram group. See y'all later, and we'll see you tomorrow with a sweep behind us. Fly, Eagles, fly. Have a good night, guys. Let's go.